Welcome to the Big Cat Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Big Cat KZ. Thank you so much for listening in. The Big Cat Lounge is where we interview guests in a casual lounge setting from all over the world. We are on the way to achieving Big Cat International status. New episodes are dropped weekly on all places you listen to podcasts. Please rate and subscribe to help us grow.
I'm Izzy Ton, short for Isabella. I don't know if I can say recently anymore, but I quit my job back in September. I was a financial consultant for 9 years, and I decided to take a year off to really pursue the things that I wanted to do. So I can now say that I teach aerial yoga, I teach mindfulness, I'm a coach, and I'm really doing all the things that I love in my life. So I'm really excited to share everything about what I'm doing and hopefully give some people some inspiration to go and pursue the thing that they're interested in.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And we're excited to learn about your journey and really what led you to pursue this this new path, and really to understand like what mindfulness is and what to expect if you were to go through a 30-minute session that you lead.
To start with the meditation, I always like to say that, it really depends on where you're at, and it's not a one size fit all. So I always try to first focus on what's the easiest point of entry. So a lot of times people think of with meditation that it's silently sitting for long periods of time, just completely making your mind blank. And that's really not the case. Meditation and mindfulness can really be implemented in everyday activities like washing the dishes. So, for example, just feeling the water, feeling the sensation of washing the dish that's in front of you, really being completely present with that. It could also be walking meditation. So really focusing on how one step comes in front of the other. So I always like to first say those things because I don't want it to be really intimidating for folks, and to just get that first foot in the door in terms of being fully present, because that's really what mindfulness is. It's living completely in the present moment, bringing all that attention and awareness to what you're doing right now, rather than being caught in the past or, thinking about the future, really living in the only moment that we really have, which is right now. And so I lead weekly mindfulness sessions that are 30 minutes. And what that looks like is I usually start with a grounding meditation. That's about 5 minutes. I've been incorporating a lot of journaling exercises because a lot of times we might not make a lot of time for reflection. So I include a journaling exercise. I include a visualization or a guided meditation afterwards. I do like to include a little bit of a silent meditation because we oftentimes don't get a lot of silence to ourselves. And so just noticing where our mind wanders when we just are allowing ourselves to be completely quiet and with ourselves. And then I usually end with a gratitude. So what's one thing that we can be thankful for in our lives, whether it's the sun shining, whether it's conversation with friends. And after the session, we usually stay on and just talk about our experience, whether it's with anything that we discussed as part of that mindfulness session, or even things that are going on in people's lives. I think a lot of times we don't have that community that can really be vulnerable and share where we're at. So I always try to encourage a very safe and confidential and safe space afterwards.
And there's just so many myths, I guess, that are associated with like meditation. I guess a lot of people think like, oh, if you do it, you're just gonna fall asleep right away. So there's just there's a lot of things that come with just learning, I guess, the process, and learning really how to disconnect and really just focus on one thing at hand.
Yeah, and also if you fall asleep, that's probably what your body is asking for. We're probably sleep deprived, we're probably stressed out. And so when you first start out, it's very possible that you fall asleep if you decide to do something like a sitting meditation. So I always encourage people, if you are prone to falling asleep while meditating, to do something that's a little bit more active. and be fully present in that. So when I gave the example of walking meditation or washing the dishes, oftentimes we're thinking about something else. We're thinking about where we're going, we're thinking about the thing we have to do next, and we're not being completely present with the activity at hand. We're not able to take in our surroundings, take in the sensations that are really grounding us in this moment.
Mhm, mhm. And so you also have spent some time exploring aerial. Um, Tell me a little bit about that, and how you've gained so much strength beyond just the physical aspects.
Yeah. So a little bit to kind of take a step back, because you had talked about or asked about my background and what kind of started this whole journey for me. Even though I had done meditation before this sort of pivotal moment in my life, I ended up getting a divorce 2 years ago in 2019, and that really made me question, who am I? What do I like to do? And so in order to kind of get back to myself, I was looking on a fitness website and I saw that a studio was offering aerial yoga. And I was like, okay, this looks cool. Maybe this will help reconnect me to my body. And for those who don't know what aerial yoga is, it's if you know of what Cirque du Soleil is with the fabrics that come from the ceiling, it's sort of like that, but not quite as intense. So it's a fabric that's connected to the ceiling at 2 points. And what I loved about aerial yoga was the connection to my body and my breath and needing to be totally just completely present. I was not particularly in great physical shape. And so when I was doing the exercises, I was kind of flopping around. I didn't have a lot of body awareness, but my instructor got me up into the air, which I definitely did not think was going to be possible that first day. And I just absolutely fell in love. And in this journey that I've been on for 2.5 years with aerial yoga, both in aerial hammock, I started to move into aerial silks, and I'm going into pole as well now. I've just found so much beauty and grace in my own movement and body acceptance and body awareness. Through this practice, I can, honestly say I love myself. I love my body, which, is a sad thing that I couldn't say that before, but we're all on a journey of discovering ourselves and discovering what makes us happy. And so I currently teach aerial yoga and yoga studios in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And I love sharing this with my students because we're all at different starting points. And what I always like to share with them when I do these things and they're like, wow, you're doing these things so gracefully. I'm like, I was exactly where you were at. I was thudding on the ground. I couldn't even pull myself up.
Mhm.
And I think what I love also about aerial yoga, because I used to lift weights, I used to go to a personal trainer, and I had never in my entire life been able to do a pull-up ever. And with aerial yoga, because it's such a playful experience, sort of doing like a body puzzle, and you're always doing pull-ups, but you don't know it. I'm now able to do like 5 pull-ups in a row from a dead hang. So even that, to be able to express just the amount of change that happens in the body and how quickly it happens. I've been seeing my students now for about 3 weeks, and it's just amazing, the transformation in terms of their grace, their body awareness, just their how they engage with the apparatus now. And I just absolutely love sharing it with people.
Yeah, and it really helps, having a great guide and just the importance of instruction, because a lot of the times it may be overwhelming and we have a lot of defense mechanisms. So being able to just let loose and not really have to worry helps a tremendous amount, I'm sure, with your members and just with what you've learned thus far with interacting with people.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I try to bring into not only my classes, but into my coaching, into my meditation sessions is this sense of curiosity and play. And yes, we can take, things seriously, but not to take ourselves so seriously and to not give ourselves this judgment of, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. and allowing ourselves to just go through the discovery phase of, oh, okay, today I can't get this, but next week when I come back, when I've slept, when my body has processed what I had learned over this past week, I come back and I'm able to do this thing that I've never been able to do. And so just being able to see that change in people is really, really amazing. So I always try to come from a sense of play and a sense of, just that, almost that childlike experience, because I think as adults, we don't really get a lot of opportunities to play anymore. And I kind of want to bring it back to that 6-year-old self.
Yeah, and that's amazing, because you're right. Like, a lot of the times, every task, we're treating it as work or something forced that we don't want to really do. So being able to treat it as play is something that you're really going to be looking forward to it. You're going to go into it expecting to have fun and to just relax and enjoy.
Yeah. And I always encourage my students to also take photos and videos, especially when they're starting out. I think a lot of times when we think about Instagram and these social media things, we always see sort of the best version of everyone. And then we start to judge ourselves and think, oh, I'm not at this level, so I shouldn't, show this. And I think what's more important is to acknowledge our progress. Because, in a year from now, they might be, or myself included, I might be upset because I can't get a certain trick or a certain thing. And then I look back on videos from a year ago and I realize, wow, I've come so far from where I was. And I think that that's something that's really big, is just acknowledging how much growth we've had, whether it's in aerial, whether it's in our career, whether it's in different parts of our lives, is just recognizing that growth and just continuing on and being curious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and being intentional and able to reflect helps tremendously. Just knowing like what you did in the past, so you can say, oh yeah, I have made progress. It's not just in my head. I'm actually progressing along and striding. It's just there's always going to be obstacles. We just have to continue and refine along the way.
Yeah, for sure.
Today's sponsor is Anchor FM app. Go download the free Anchor app today to get started. You can find it at your Play Store or App Store. It's everything you need to make a podcast, and it distributes everything for you so it can be heard on multiple platforms such as Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and many more. This is what I'm currently using right now to edit and record my podcast, and you can do so from your phone or computer. And the tools are really easy to use to help document the Big Cat Lounge journey. So what are you waiting for? Go today and download it. How long have you been a vegan for? I've been pescatarian for about 4 years now, and it's difficult for like late night options, fast food.
Yeah, so I've been vegan for about 2.5 years, and my divorce was sort of the catalyst. Everyone always says I'm so sorry when I say I'm divorced, and I say why. It's why I'm here right now. It's why I'm doing all of these things, because it forced me to look at myself, and I became vegan as one of those as a reason for that. And that kind of happened. I had friends who were vegan, who are of the Jain religion, which they don't eat eggs. And so I was surrounding myself with people who were eating predominantly vegetarian and vegan. I think the biggest hurdle for me, being half Vietnamese, a quarter Korean, and a quarter, white European, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but a lot of the Asian culture is focused on meat. Everything has meat in it. And I didn't want to give up Vietnamese food for whatever, that's sort of the ego of it, is that I didn't want to give up my cultural food. And I went to this restaurant in Greenwich Village, and they had a vegan pho, which is usually made of beef broth and has lots of meat in it. And they had a vegetarian pho, which was also actually vegan. And when I had that, I was like, oh my God, they can make this taste exactly the same. What? And at that point, I cold turkeyed, went straight vegan. And I think a lot of the times is that, you're not going to find what you're not looking, or you're not you're not going to find what you're not looking for.
Yeah.
And I think the moment that I decided, okay, I'm going vegan, now I'm going to try to find all of my favorite food veganized. And so I found Thai food that was vegan. I found Szechuan food that was vegan. I found a Korean place that was vegan. There was so many options. And especially now, there's so many alternatives that are coming out, whether it's cheese-based things or meat substitutes. And I think for me, now that I've gotten a little bit further away from that point, to me, if it's 90%, it tastes similar, that's good enough for me. Like, I don't need it to taste all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I became vegan is more so because of the animals and just not, I also would ask myself this question before every meal. If I had this desire to eat meat, I would ask myself, will I care about this tomorrow? Will I care about this in a week, in a month, in a year? And the reality is that, like, if I don't know, like, do you remember the meal you ate last week on Monday?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Probably not, right? And so recognizing that aspect is sort of like that instant gratification of like having this thing versus, for me, it's like recognizing that I don't need to kill an animal in order to have a great experience with food. I also love to cook. And so now I've been doing a lot more cooking at home. It also saves a lot of money, which is great. And I also get to experiment with different things. There's a lot of great YouTube videos, I think, even for making Vietnamese vegan food, which I'm really excited about trying out. Because there's definitely things that I miss that I've been a little bit lazy to make. But yeah, I think it just gets easier over time and you learn how to plan. And so I actually today just did a big, huge bulk cook. And so I have all potential options for, what I want to eat. And then I have an emergency vegan pizza in my freezer just in case I want that like late night craving of pizza. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I deal with it now.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, just being planning ahead of time, it makes a big difference to meal prep and to know what you have available, because then you're tempted to go out and spend or get unhealthy options. You're tempted more if you don't have it in your fridge or in your apartment, wherever you are.
Yeah, and I always pack snacks in my backpack because I bike around a lot in New York, and so I always make sure that I have a granola bar or sometimes I'll pack my actual meals, and just so that I have something to eat so that I'm not tempted by things. And at the same time, there's so many restaurants that are popping up. I know, people might be in different locations and may say, oh, but New York, abundance of food. There's always something. Oreos are vegan, for example. I always like to give these like really odd examples of vegan food. Oreos are vegan. So you can pack some Oreos. So yeah.
Are you able to still play the guitar and ukulele? I know you were doing that before. Are you still able to? I mean, now maybe not, as everything it starts opening up. Maybe there's more opportunity.
Yeah, I actually just enrolled in a singing class to restart my singing. So I'm really excited about that. And I've been writing some songs. I just ordered a stereo to be able to go into Prospect Park to try to busk for some money to play and sing, which I'm really excited about. And just kind of like, I think this year for me is all about putting myself out there and, having the courage and the confidence to do things that might be a little bit scary. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really neat. And there's so many different, I guess, coffee houses and different venues at your disposal. And I guess for you, you don't need a vehicle, right? You're able to just go on the bike or hop on the train. So that's really helpful too.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking for open mic nights. I have a couple on my calendar that I've found close by where I live. So I'm really excited about singing at them.
And how was your experience in Guatemala? So you were able to explore this year and stay there for some time, right?
Yeah, that was a really wonderful experience. So My ex-partner and I, and a group of our friends, we decided to go to Guatemala for a couple of months. So we rented a couple of Airbnbs and a larger house. And I first want to acknowledge, like, I understand the amount of privilege I had to go and do that. And it was just honestly one of the best experiences. It even led into some of the opportunities that I had in Brooklyn. And just being able to be in a completely different environment. We were in Lake Atitlan. And so if you don't know where that is, I believe it's south. I'm horrible with geography, but I believe it's south of Guatemala City, about 4 hours, and it's surrounded by volcanoes. And it's just, I'm a morning person, but I've never been a sunrise person. And the sunrises there were just so captivating. Like, you would want to, like, you wake up, it's dark out, you're like, okay, I'm going to go out to the dock and I'm going to watch the sunrise. And it was just a really mesmerizing place. There's a lot of culture there. One of the things that I really want to do as part of any sort of travel that I do now and going forward is to incorporate some amount of volunteering, just so that I'm not just taking from the place that I'm visiting, but really giving back. And so I reached out to this organization called ODIM, and they have a bunch of different programs specifically within the health space, but they also teach English to indigenous Mayan, I don't want to say kids because it ranges from about 11 to 21, but they are all beginners. They were all very eager to learn. So I did that twice a week for 3 hours. And that was one of the most rewarding experiences as part of my trip. I definitely, like, top 2 experiences for me was being able to actually teach English to them, because it also gave me an opportunity to practice my Spanish, which has been a little bit rusty. But it was just really amazing. And they gave me, at the end of it, they gave me this beautiful card that they made that says, "Thanks a lot." And I, like, wanted to cry, because I really bonded with those, with the kids. And the second experience out of that was sort of random. I was coming down from a yoga studio in the forest. Literally, the place is called Yoga Forest. And I was coming down, trying to go back to the town in a different way that I hadn't come up initially. And this guy comes out of a hut. Literally, I was just kind of, like, scared, because I was like, why is this guy coming out of a hut in the middle of the forest? Turns out he was coming out of his Spanish class. And I'd asked him, do you know how to get back to the town? And he said, yeah, I'm actually going back. We can walk together. And so we were talking, and he was like, oh, I'm actually going to a rock climbing gym. I manage it. And I had brought my aerial, like, all of my aerial gear and hammock and rigging. And I asked him, oh, how tall is your ceilings? I have some stuff, and I want to be able to practice while I'm here, because I was just planning on tying it up to a tree or something. And he was like, oh, you do aerial yoga. The owner of the Instructor Soleil, she's literally like 8-9 months pregnant, about to give birth. So she hasn't been teaching. Do you want to teach aerial yoga? Oh, wow. And at this point, this is in, I think, February, I had zero experience teaching aerial yoga. I went through my yoga teacher training, I think, back in 2019 or 2020. I think it was 2019, actually, no, because COVID. But I hadn't taught aerial yoga, which is sort of a different beast. But I was like, yes, like, I want to teach aerial yoga so bad. I love sharing this with people. I love seeing people grow. And so very randomly, from an interaction in the forest from a guy coming out of a hut, I started to teach aerial yoga. And that was what gave me the confidence to be able to, when I saw this job posting for an aerial yoga teaching job in Brooklyn, I applied, I interviewed, and I got it. And if it had not been for this very random encounter, I wouldn't have had that experience.
It's really the interactions and the opportunities we have to meet new individuals and just our connections throughout our life. It's always interesting to learn upon other people's experiences, what they've done before, to take it in. And And sometimes that's what we need to push us, to get out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think just meeting people from different backgrounds, different ways of life. I became pretty close with this one guy, Selvin, who him and his family owned this. Um, it was a mixture of like a bodega, grocery shop type of place, a laundry place above, and then like a restaurant. And him and his kids were just adorable, and I loved talking with them every day. And then you see a lot of tourists coming in as well, and just meeting people of all different walks of life. A lot of the people who were there had been there for an extended period of time, so it wasn't like people were coming in for 3 days. It was sort of expats who had made a decision to stay there.
This brings us to our quote section. You have enough time, 168 hours per week, 40 hours at work, 7 hours for the gym, 56 hours for sleeping, and then 67 hours left. So stop wasting, start doing. We all have like the same amount of time. It's just really like maximizing and figuring out what we're doing about it and being intentional.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of the times, like if we think about mindfulness, for example, in this context, right, we spend a lot of, when I ask people, how much time do you spend at work? It's not just the 40 hours that you spend at work. It's all of those additional hours that you spend thinking about work and worrying about work and wishing you were doing something else. And so how many hours are we actually spending wishing that our life was actually different? And so as a coach, I really try to focus on, okay, where are you at today? Where do you want to go? What are you excited about? And what are the steps that you can take in order to get yourself there? And sometimes, and I totally understand this because it's one of the most important things that I've been growing over the past couple of years is a supportive community. People who are going to say, yes, your dreams are valid. Yes, you can do the things that you want to do. And I want to be able to provide that same support and advocacy for people who have been told so many times, no, you can't do this. You're too old. People who have a lot of fear that they're being pigeonholed into a career or that, it's too late. I was in my job for 9 years and I made a complete switch out of the corporate life into something that I feel very passionate about and want to help other people, whatever their dream is, right? My dream might not be your dream. And so it's about that discovery, that curiosity about where is it that you want to go and how can we keep you accountable? How can we keep you excited? How can we acknowledge, yes, life is going to continue to happen. And so working with the things that pop up, and working through those things and just continuing to move forward while also appreciating the life that you have right now.
And if we wanted to book a coaching session or just to see if it would work for us, how would we go about doing that?
Yeah, so you can visit my website, which is www.isabellaton.com. So that's ISA, B as in boy, ELLATON.com. Or email me at Izzy, Izzy, at isabellaton.com. And I offer a free 60-minute discovery session. So really that's just us getting to know each other, seeing if we mesh well, if we would work well together, for me to understand where it is that you want to go and what you want to accomplish. And that could be whether it's your career. I currently have a couple of clients where we're working through what are their next steps after this job that they've been in for a few years. Where do they really want to go with their lives? Or maybe it's in a relationship or other parts, whatever you're going through. I'm here to hear you and to be here for you. So if someone's interested, you can email me. You can check out my website to see what my offerings are. And the first 60-minute session is free. So you just have to email me.
Awesome. And you also have a YouTube channel as well, right?
I do. I have one from high school, which that's like super emo, Izzy, just so funny. But I started another one that I really am more focused on in terms of just trying to spread a little bit more positivity
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, like a lot of the music that we hear is around heartbreak or anger or sadness, and all of those feelings and emotions are completely valid. And I for sure listen to that music as well. But I often don't hear a lot of positive music, things that can inspire, that can move you forward, that can really create this sense of hope. And so I'm trying to focus more of my music to be in that direction, to give people a sense of ease and calmness with wherever they're at.
Mhm. Oh, thank you so much for coming onto the show to share your story. We appreciate your time
Yeah.
coming onto the Big Cat Lounge podcast.
Thank you so much, Kyle.